Oh my god. Okay, so this is one that stood out to me. This is a Lauren Southern video, by the way.
Hi, everybody. I'm
Hey,
in the
Trent.
frame. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Trent, what are you doing? Get out of the frame. Piece of garbage. No. Okay, we're gonna watch the Lauren Southern video.
Why are we so quick to throw away the values of our past?
Because they were garbage. Okay, so this is the war on traditional values. Let's read the whole title because it's ridiculous. Has created a lost, angry, confused generation. Interesting. What I would like, I'm kind of covering up Lauren's face. Whatever. You know what Lauren looks like. I've done like one of her videos. I'll try to be nice because I am a fan of Lauren and she did like one of my tweets once. But God, sometimes she can be such a nitwit. It's embarrassing.
I've said this before on Twitter that I find it very sad we spend most of our time in universities deconstructing and destroying tradition and culture instead of creating any.
Is that really what they do in university? I thought in university they were all about, like, respect culture. Now, sure, in terms of philosophy, we do tend to deconstruct ideas like, oh, this idea is, it means something in our eyes. Like, this is holy, or this is sacred, or this is untouchable. And then, obviously, a skeptical modern person will look at that and say, why? Why can't I criticize this? Why can't I talk about this in a new way? It's inevitable for ideas to be deconstructed. In my mind, that's a good thing. Because it's not a good idea to just say, like, we automatically respect this because it's from the past and our grandpappies respected it. That kind of mentality is hopefully dying and has led to literally nothing good.
Problem with postmodernism and deconstruction of older values.
I hate to pause it every few seconds. We'll get more into it, but this side is always criticizing any kind of social justice movement for using buzzwords. So then we're going to have our own buzzwords. Postmodernism. It's like, don't you see that you're the other side of this fucked up coin? Don't you see how you're not accomplishing what you're hoping you're going to accomplish? These people you criticize as the most horrible group, you look just like them. And kindly take a second to self-reflect and understand that maybe other people are not going to take your criticisms very seriously if the group you're criticizing looks exactly like you.
Constructed religion, race, gender roles, tradition, the nuclear family, and much more.
Good.
What have we left ourselves with? A generation of lost and confused individuals with no identity.
People should not be finding really much identity in race, religion, gender roles, nuclear family, any of that. People should make their own identity. And that's the problem, because so many people tied themselves in the past to these ideas that were unmoving and said, like, and basically it's pretty much like just going down with the ship. Like, this is my life's goal. No, make your own life goal.
Brennan O'Neill has stated, nothing speaks more profoundly to the crisis of character than the phrase, I identify as. I am a builder, I am a mother, I am a Jew. There was a confidence, a certainty to their sense of identity, and to their declaration of it. O'Neill's words ring true when looking at the millennial crisis of character.
Okay.
It's tough to know who you are when all the guidelines have been doused in oil and burned.
Not really. I mean, I'm a millennial, and I know exactly where I stand on pretty much every issue. There are a couple of gray areas here and there. I don't say I identify as something. I am certain things, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, I don't attribute any kind of dogmatic value to the things I am. Like, I am a man. I don't find any identity in that. That's just how it happens to be. And no one really cares outside of that. Like, oh, good on you. You recognize what you were born as. Congratulations. Do you want a cookie? No one cares.
Even for things previously seen as innate, such as gender. To be fair, no one wants to be held down by societal constraints. No one wants to be forced to have a certain religion, 2.5 kids, a white picket fence, and a dog
I really
named
needed
Spot.
this explained to me.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just not a life that's going to suit everyone. But instead of just being open to other ideas than this nuclear family and traditional lifestyle, what postmodernism has wrought is the deconstruction and rejection of old ideas, most of which still hold a lot of value.
And that's part of the problem when you say, "Oh, this has value." Not even like the nuclear family has gone significantly downhill. I mean, there are plenty of nuclear families. I come from a nuclear family, and there will be plenty of nuclear families in the future. I think you're making the problem bigger than it really is. There are some people who want to go their own way, but I would say that it's not nearly to the extent that you're hypothesizing. It's not as many people. It's not like this is split down the middle, or I mean, the way you're phrasing it, Lauren, you're acting like, oh, there are no nuclear families. It's all gone downhill. There's no one even breeding anymore. We're not going to have a new generation of people. It's like, no. But what's important to understand is it was socially, back in the day, that was the only kind of family that really was socially acceptable, at least for a little bit of time. So, of course, when those societal pressures are gone, people are going to do what they actually want to do. And I fail to see a problem.
You see this very clearly with feminism, where feminists will stand up for the woman who wants to get a degree in lesbian dance theory and go to Free the Nipple protests.
That is funny.
But not the woman who wants to stay conservative and be a stay-at-home mother. In fact, these feminists will attack the latter.
We're actually kind of talking about that with the Gavin McGinnis clip, which, by the way, I guess they work for the same network, don't they? Yeah, I think they do. Didn't even mean for that to happen. Yeah, oftentimes a lot of modern feminists will say, oh, housewives, that's bad. I've talked about this with Amber from Southern Belle Atheism several times, and they'll be like, oh, you go, girl, go get your women's studies degree. I understand that happens, but I think we've all decided that those people are full of shit. Like, we all kind of ignore them and say, okay, we're done listening to you. What's important now is to move the conversation past that. Let's keep going.
As of late, academics in the education system have rejected the idea of the nuclear family, despite it truly being one of the backbones of our society.
All academics.
Linda Gordon, a radical feminist writer, has stated, "The nuclear family must be destroyed, and people
Clearly
must
credible.
find better ways of living together." Families have supported oppression by separating people into small, isolated units, unable to join together to fight for common interests.
I don't necessarily agree with destroying the nuclear family. I think that's a little too far. But I would say that in terms of being a backbone for society, in terms of human history, it's always been kind of the mentality of it takes a village to raise a child. Like this idea of a nuclear family, of separating, like a community into small family units, I think that's very true. And I think that has contributed a lot to this feeling that now you're blaming on postmodernism, this feeling of people being very overly independent and like not really interacting well with others, I suppose is what you're getting at. We could blame that on kind of the separation of families from a larger social, gathering or a larger community. Let's keep going.
Out of all the traditional values being attacked, the nuclear family is probably the most important and vital of them, and will have the most devastating effect when destroyed. The war on men and boys has contributed to this greatly.
We've already agreed not to call it a war on women. We don't need to turn it around and say there's a war on men and boys. Like, no. There's what war? If there's a war going on, I have completely missed it. I didn't sign up for the draft. I'm sorry. I was kind of like Trump in that regard. I was a draft dodger. It's ridiculous, sensationalized, tabloid bullshit. Are you kidding me? A war on men and boys? How about we partner you up with the MGTOW guy? Because clearly that's the biggest problem in society.
Talking of the father figure, the idea that somehow young boys don't need a father around, despite the fact that there's a large amount...
Who is saying that? No, Lauren. Who is saying that young boys don't need a father around? You can't just say something like, citation. I'm sure some radical feminists said that somewhere, but is that like a prevailing, accepted social theory? Hell no.
Of evidence showing that children raised by single mothers are more likely to fare worse in education, social and emotional development, and health and success. They are also at greater risk of parental abuse and neglect. The rise of third-wave feminism, where women are encouraged to be sexually promiscuous, grow out their armpits, stay out of healthy relationships, and disregard their appearance, has not caused for an increase in women's happiness. Instead, it has caused for a drastic decrease.
I think we all acknowledge that. And I wouldn't say that the third wave feminist movement is openly sexually promiscuous. I'd say it's overly modest and Puritan in terms of a more popular opinion that's going around. Of course, there's the slut walk stuff. But what in terms of being a counterculture to that disaster of a movement, it's important not to go your route, Lauren. It's important not to say, look how crazy this is. Let's be completely on the right wing of things. Let's be this. Let's be a dark mirror of the feminist movement. No. I completely shut out these kinds of extremes. I am a political moderate with a left leaning, and that's how I choose to observe these kinds of movements that insist on riling up supporters with nothing but rhetoric.
We may have this notion that the generations before us were unenlightened for acting more conservative, humble, hardworking, and patriotic.
Hardworking, patriotic.
But after we deconstructed what did we replace it with? Narcissism, censorship, selfishness, and entitlement? We've become a generation of lost, confused, and angry people.
There was plenty of those elements in the past, and not everyone is as miserable as you're making them out to be now, quite frankly. We'll finish up, Lauren. Oh, wonderful. Sign up. How about no? I guess we came back to Lauren for 1 second.